All systems go. Cleared for takeoff. What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, a.k.a. ToeTagginTambo, back for another edition of the Thursday Night Football Showdown show. Got my same guys with me as always, Hoop and Title. Bring them in here in a minute. Back on the Mayo Media Network. Do us a favor on the way in. Smash that like. Hit the subscribe. If you haven't yet done so, hop over to the SHIPIT Nation YouTube channel. It's just youtube.com/@SHIPITNation. Subscribe there. We're about to hit 4,000 subscribers, and when we do, we're giving away a 6-month bundle to shipitnation.com. So check that out as well. We've got Tampa Bay, Buffalo big favorites. Total are sitting around 43.5. We're going to break it all down as usual, going through your captain's picks, talk some ownership, roster construction, game theory, leverage, all those things that everybody knows and likes. Hoop, saw you grab the drink right quick, but you'll be ready by the time of the end of my words. How you doing, man, on this fine Thursday afternoon? Ready to talk another showdown slate?
Yeah, busy Thursday. Got NBA 2-game slate, big prize pools for that. The showdown slate, obviously big prize pools for that. The Bills, Tampa Bay. The nice thing about the football game, which we kind of talked about, we have all the news. There's not too much that we're waiting on. I mean, if anything popped up in inactive, it would be somewhat of a surprise. Everything's out there. I mean, Baker Mayfield, Chris Godwin were questionable coming into today. I think everyone kind of assumed they were going to play, and that is the case. They will play tonight. So we got a pretty straightforward slate. I think there's, some definite angles that we'll be discussing here throughout the show. Looking forward to it. And as always, our content over at shipitnation.com will be up early, so you guys have the ability to digest it and start building your lineups. Yeah,
I love that last call. It should definitely be up earlier than usual because what you said, I think right now, NFL and NBA are competing, right? Like NBA knows not to have a big slate on the NFL Thursday night showdown. There's only 2 games, but NFL also knows that NBA hits you with a shit ton of injuries and last-minute bullshit. They're like, you know what? Let's get our injury stuff straight, guys. Get your news out early. We have most of it, so we'll go through all that as we break it down. Title, bring you in, man. What's happening with you? Thursday afternoon, another week, free money football. Let's go, baby.
Yeah, it's not Sunday, free money Thursday. NBA, NFL, people out there in the NHL streets, still 20K up top there. I've been having a lot of success in the Shipping Nation Discord community in the NHL streets as well. But yeah, 500K up top, not a million, but no one's going to complain with a little $500,000 extra. The Bills back on the slate, which I don't know how I feel about Bills slates. It was the last time they were on, the Quentin Morris, the low own play got there. Hardy was on there too. So there's only a couple chops, but the Josh Allen, Diggs, and then pretty big favorites against this Tampa team. Like, yeah, there's Godwin, Mike Evans, there's other captains you could play on that squad, but Diggs and Josh, I think, are going to be very heavily concentrated at captain spot, maybe 50% combined, something around that. So what are your initial thoughts on Bills more specifically and this slate in general for Showdown?
I think it's going to be a good one still. I think this is an interesting spot. Usually when Bills are on the slate, and they are on the slate, they are at home, they do have a big total. I wonder when we get to building and looking at thoughts there, how people are going to go, because usually we get these Bill slates with these this big spread. You see everybody just jump in on the Bills all in tonight. Obviously, I think Allen, Diggs, guys like that in the captain slot will get popular, but there is something to be said for the other side because there is options there. Before I bring Hoop in and get his thoughts, though, the chat always recognizes what we got going on here. Like, Title does have the SHIPIT hat. Nick also
2 days ago I wore it.
Yeah, yesterday though, buddy had no lid on. If you guys didn't go back and watch, speaking of NBA show, we'll talk on it in a second, Colin, but go back and watch yesterday's NBA show for just 5 seconds. Just go see it. It's on the SHIPIT Nation YouTube station. You can see it. Actually, it's right
Mayo.
Here. We did it on the Mayo Network yesterday, Wednesdays. I forgot. So check it out. He had no lid on, and it was some wild stuff. But to answer your question, Colin, we won't usually have any shows for less than 3 games, but we talked about it for the first week, for the launch week. So later today on our YouTube channel, another reason to go and subscribe, myself and Nades will be on there breaking down this 2-gamer for tonight. So I appreciate you asking and bringing that up. And then lastly, before I go to Hoop, talking his overview, want to remind you guys very quickly, this show is brought to you and presented by Run the Sims. Go to runthesims.com. Use promo code SHIPIT to get 10% off. We are going to run that sim segment later on so you guys can see how we break it all down. And if you want to get to shipitnation.com, you could still get that 10% off right now. Monthly, 6 months, or annual. All the sports that we covered, the 6 are listed there. Content, projections, tools, the Discord community. It's been popping off with NBA back, and you can use code MAYO to get 10% off. Hoop, I'll go to you. Your thoughts on this slate? Anything else you want to add when it comes to ShipItNation.com?
No, I mean, and then the one thing to add is it's all sports too. So when you sign up for a monthly, semi-annual, or annual package, you get access to everything. Obviously, NBA is big right now. NFL is big, but there's going to be some PGA events coming up. We have NHL going, and then MMA on break this weekend, but back next weekend. We have the best team in the industry for MMA content. Go ahead, Title or Tambo, touch on that.
I can touch on it quick. I say this every time, so people go through it there. We'll look at it. We actually have had a lot of people reach out about weekly, so we are considering it. We said from the start. But the thing is right now, remember this. The setup with code MAYO is $62 when you sign up. And I don't need to sell you. I'm just telling you, we can move on. But when you sign up for $62, it's already $14 a week when you do that. I know it's a little more than everybody wants to spend, but the reason I bring that up is because realistically, like Hoop just said, if you go find just our NBA stuff that's crushing right now, leave the MMA stuff aside that's been dominating, the golf that's going to come back and be incredible, the football stuff that's been awesome. Just had somebody win the Millie Maker a couple of weeks ago. So it's like all that's going on. A lot of sites out there that are great. Nothing against them. Just saying they're charging $119 a month, $170 a month with an optimizer. Other sites are charging $329 for their NBA only package. And I get why and understand all that. And that's their business. But we're charging, you can get the 6-month bundle with us for $323 and get all the sports included for 6 months with projections, ownership, and all that goes with it. So $62 a month is the lowest you can get in right now. Use code MAYO. Lots of people have used it. You hop in with that. It works out to about $14 per week, and you get everything. It's all in there. So try it for a month. You get in the Discord. You get to see what it's all about. Definitely recommend checking that out. If we do bring anything in weekly and news with that, we will be the first to let you know and let you know how all that's going to work. Hoop, first thoughts on this slate, man. You usually, you talk about being the San Francisco Whisperer last slate. You usually love these Buffalo slates, but it's also because it's like all in Josh Allen or something. What are you doing here today?
It didn't work out on the last Buffalo slate, but man, you start looking at this one and, I agree. I mean, the ownership on Allen and Diggs is going to be pretty damn high in the captain spot, and rightfully so. I mean, no matter where you're looking, projections, eye test, whatever. I mean, these two are clearly the 1-2 fantasy options tonight. Diggs is having a phenomenal season, and he has a lot of routes to get there, to being the optimal captain. Like, he can catch 10 to 12 balls. He can find the end zone. He can get the big yardage. Like, he can do it all, multiple touchdown upside. So, Diggs, is a guy that you have to consider up there. Josh Allen, we haven't seen the consistency. We've seen some down performances. But with this team coming off a loss to New England last week, it just seems like a spot where they're just going to take it to Tampa Bay, in my opinion. That's what I see. Now, we saw a spot like this against Miami earlier on in the season, and we talked about it at that point. Miami was the hot team. They came to Buffalo. Buffalo just took it to them. I can see them just taking care of business here tonight against Tampa Bay at home. They haven't had the start to the season that they wanted. So I like the Buffalo side of things. Obviously, Allen, obviously Diggs, but it does get difficult after that. Like, where do you want to go? Dawson Knox is out. Dalton Kincaid, 8 targets last week, 8 catches for 75 yards. So if he does something similar to that, finds the end zone, he's a potential captain. The rest of it, though, is tough. I mean, James Cook, not thrilled with that. Gabe Davis, it's going to have to, essentially for him to be captain, he's going to have to score 2 touchdowns. And if you think he can score 2 touchdowns, then put him in there. But man, I don't know. Teams are doing a better job of defending him. So makes it difficult there. And then on the Tampa Bay side, I really think the only 2 guys you can play up top, in my opinion, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. I think I prefer Evans. It just seems like he has a better connection with Baker so far this season. And he has the touchdown upside. He has the 50-yard touchdown upside where he can catch the bomb. If they're playing from behind, get some additional targets. So I find it very hard to click on names on the Tampa Bay side outside of Evans and Godwin. And I just don't really see myself going many other places than the captain. So I think it's probably going to be a tight core for me in the captain spot. And again, everything will be updated after the show. But it's going to be tight for me up top. I'm not going to spread it out today.
Yeah, before I go back to your title, I'm going to get this out of the way now. So then when we hit to the content, we can just go bang, 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 like we always do and go right through it. Someone said it already, but just to answer Colin's question, because people ask this all the time. So I want to end it here so we can just have the conversation. The solver is optional. When you go to the site, to shipitnation.com and click join the nation, we made it easier because some people said, well, you said everything and we weren't sure and we didn't see that it was optional. We're completely transparent. We always have been from day one. We haven't really changed the price. Hoop told you at the beginning that this would get to 69. We waited like 3 extra months even to go to 69. So just to keep that in mind, it's pretty straightforward. 69 a month, 59 a month if you hop on. Now, these do get cheaper when you use the 10% because it's like 62, 53, and 43 or something like that. But just to show you at the current pricing, use the code MAYO to get the 10% off. It's all the same listings here because when you go on mobile, it's stacked vertically. So someone just scrolling down can see there's not anything different with any of the packages. It's just a better deal. The solver is optional, but keep in mind when you get this for 62, let's use this one. You get this for $359. It goes down to $323. You use our solver link back on the previous page. You'll see our logo directly at the top. To get the same all sports package for 6 months is basically $300. So $623 over 6 months works out to just over $100 a month all in. If you want to add their simulator package to get sims and stuff, you can, because I know some sites out there are charging $300 a month to include sims in it, but just cancel the sims for 2 seconds and say you're a brain player and you just want to go back to this other stuff. For our site for 6 months, all sports, for the solver, 6 months, all sports, you're paying just over $100 a month and you literally have everything you need right now. And if you say, no, I think sims are needed too, I'm okay. If you think that, that's fine. But you can add it for a little bit a month as well. You can sim 20 lineups a month for $39. So call it $140. Now go look at all of our competitors, if they even have this option, and see what they charge for all 6 sports and optimizer and sims. And even if you don't want the sims, go back to what I said, $103 a month to get it all. So we'll end the marketing rant there. We will get back to it later. We'll be showing you guys the Sims segment. And we're already up on their main page here, but this is Run the Sims. We will get to the SimRunner later on where we break down and go through it all. But Title, I'm going to come back to you, man, as we get rid of this stuff for now. Hoop talked about it a little. Did you have any extra thoughts to add on just how you see these captain slots playing out as I fix things up here?
Yeah, no, it was, I mentioned pre-show, or not pre-show, just at the start of the show. It's really like Diggs and Josh Allen. It could be 45%. I think roughly 45% is a solid number, those two together in the captain spot. So half the field pretty much playing 2 guys in the large field tournament. It makes it interesting because, yeah, they're by far my 2 favorites, but I really like Kincaid for sure. He came into the year, the rookie. Dawson Knox was next to him, but Knox more the down by the goal line guy. He's had the rapport with Josh Allen. Kincaid, a very good pass catcher, acts more like a wide receiver. Now there's no competition for him. The Quentin Morris guy who got there on the last showdown for the Bills as well, he's not playing as well. So, I mean, Kincaid's going to be out there almost 100% of routes. I think he's very interesting. I don't think I'm going to take a shot on these Bills wide receiver 3s in the captain spot. We'll be touching on the Shakirs, Sherfields, all that of the world. If I did play any of them, it'd probably be Shakir, but I'm not sure. I don't think salary is tight enough where we need to get down there. I'd rather just take the Diggs, who's minus 130 to score, Josh, his upside, stuff like that. So I don't think I'm going to be punting at captain. Love Diggs, love Josh, love Kincaid. The last one would probably be James Cook. I'm kind of worried about Latavius Murray, though, especially on the goal line. Latavius Murray has got more work down there. Touchdown prop is solid for James Cook, though, plus 125, which is the second highest on the slate. I think his ownership should be relatively in check. I'm not worried about any really captain ownership outside of Allen and Diggs. So James Cook, 8.5-point favorites, can catch the ball out of the backfield, solid touchdown prop. He's the other guy I'd get to on the Bills side. But as far as the Tampa, I'm with Hoop, like Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, but who do you say after that? And how do I like Godwin and Evans compared to Diggs and Kincaid's and all that? I like the Bills guy more, but yeah, it's really those two. I don't like Baker at all in the captain. If I do play Josh, he's not running nearly as much this year. It's still plus 130. Touchdown props, interesting. I'm thinking about making, if captain, at least one pass catcher. What are your thoughts on that, Tambo?
I think that's fine. Yeah, I think I saw other people talking about making sure you had 2. I would definitely not be doing that rule because
what
Josh
about 0?
Yeah, you could definitely do 0 too. I think that's
would do 0.
And anytime you have a guy like that, again, the problem is I know this whole Allen versus Diggs thing is going to be the conversation, but anytime you have a guy, the other night I put it in my slate plan on the site. I had 1-5s with CMC. If CMC just smashes for them all night long, and he almost did that last drive, they threw the pick. I came like 4th in the $110 King of the Beach. I had the highest CMC. If he scores on that drive, even though nobody came along with him, the 1-5 can work. It can work for Josh Allen. Just you're going to need some weird stuff to happen. So I don't think it'd be that way. And I know you weren't saying that. I'm saying so I wouldn't get to the 1-5, but I definitely could see it where you have Allen, James Cook, and then you've got like a kicker and something else. So I could definitely be fine with none still with him up there. The kicker, the D, Cook, him. Like you could definitely get away with that tonight. I think just depends on how it sets up. I will say this after hearing both of you talk and just looking into it. I don't think very many people are playing 4-2 Tampas. And I don't know if enough people are playing 5-1 Buffaloes. As much as we said, usually that's the case. It feels like there's enough. Here's the thing about Buffalo 5-1s and what usually happens. If it's Buffalo versus a really bad team, people struggle to find options. We're like, oh, I just can't even get to that. And maybe I'll just play the kicker on the other side and try and get different that way. Tonight, when you have Baker, who no, I'm not saying that you're going to necessarily put him up at captain. I actually probably will, and I'll talk on that in a second. But just to note, but like Godwin, Evans, Otten, there's definitely guys that people can get behind on the other side. So I actually think 4-2 Buffaloes are probably just as popular as 3-3s tonight. And the 5-1s may be a lesser owned than what they would be in most scenarios where the Buffalo Bills are favored by almost 9 or 9.5 at home or whatever it is. So that's how I'm seeing it. And lastly, on the Baker thing, it's disgusting and I don't like it, but I already won a King of the Beach this season doing this with Zach Wilson. So if I can do it with Zach Wilson, I actually think I can do it with Baker Mayfield here. And he does spread it out. He has, sometimes he gets out a little wild in his mind and throws the legs into it and tries to just squeeze in. He wants to show off a little bit. So you can see him snake one along the goal line there too, even. So I actually don't have a problem using him up top. I don't know how much I'll get, and we'll see later. I'll have it all in the slate plan. But just my thought early is if I was doing something like that, it would make you a little bit different. I think you would get a more balanced lineup, and it's so easy. I'm not sure if you guys looked at building yet, but if you put Diggs in the captain, even with Josh Allen, who you want to pair him with, you can fit everything still. Like there's still a lot of ways. Maybe it's one that you feel is like a little under there, but not too much. Hoop, any other thoughts from you want to add on that with the captains?
Just a tough night for the captain position. I mean, and I get it with Baker. I mean, what sort of game script do we need for Baker to be up there? And we'll see at the end because we'll put in some different scores on Run the Sims and analyze that situation. Probably a game where they're trailing, but don't get completely smoked. A game where it might be like, I don't know, 28-21 or something along those lines. And the Bills rush one in and, the Tampa Bay, they're playing from behind and they throw theirs in. So could see it, for me personally, probably not going to get there. It's just a different sort of slate where, man, I just don't see a lot of plays up top that I love because I don't really even love the Tampa Bay guys, to be honest, even talking about like Evans and Godwin. Like Godwin, yeah, he's going to get the volume, but man, like the touchdown stuff is just, he just doesn't have a ton of touchdown equity. Whereas last season he was getting those targets. I mean, the guy, he hasn't scored a touchdown all season long. I mean, could tonight be the night? Yeah, sure. But man, I don't know. I don't think so. You think it is, huh? Tonight?
Yeah, I was
okay.
watching something earlier. The stat I saw, maybe, I don't know, title falls this stuff pretty good. I think like having the guys in his, I know he's coming back from the Q tag and all that, but I'm not worried about that. They announced it like yesterday, but I think like all these guys that play his role have just crushed this team, haven't they? Isn't that like the spot you just dominate these? I think it's all like 25-point DK scores from like the last three dudes or three of the best dudes that have played these guys in the slot or whatever. And on top of that, Godwin's pretty much better than all of them. I forget who it was. Might've been Derek Brown on Twitter. Maybe I was following from Fantasy Pros. And I think he posted something about it. Just either way, lots of good tidbits out there. Do you think anything about Godwin in that perspective, Title?
I like Godwin just for the sheer fact of look at his targets and look at how many were like he doesn't have a touchdown yet this year, but I feel like he's ran pretty bad not to get there. 12 targets, 10 targets, good matchup, like you said, in the slot. I'm not worried about any of these guys with Tre'Davious White going down for the year. The secondary is definitely beatable. So your Baker stuff makes sense. I'm just going to be going the Mike and Godwin. I like both of them. There's really 5 captains for me: Josh, Diggs, James Cook, and then Mike and Godwin there. So I don't have a strong lean, I guess. for his targets, 10 plus targets, and his receptions. Like, I just think eventually he's going to fall in the box and pay off. So I hope it is tonight. I like them a lot. I wanted to touch on, I like your thoughts on the 5-1 Buffalo, though. I think they will come in a little under-owned, and I like 8.5-point favorites. Josh Diggs, Kincaid, like all of your favorite players are really there. Salary, not too much of an issue. I think 5-1 Buffalo is a little under-owned as well. And the last thing I wanted to mention was, if you're playing Baker at captain, are you forcing 2 pass catchers with him?
Oh, pretty much.
Are you hoping a QB sneak or something?
I could definitely still go like him, Godwin, and White or something like that, and be fine with it, I guess I'm saying. Or like him, Godwin, and Otten is 2 pass catchers, so yes, but like there is a spot where I could go a pass catcher and a running back. I will say this, I know you're going to hop in there, Hoop, but I just want to address this because the chat mentioned it, kind of made like Otten. If you're going pretty much any Tampa Bay captain tonight, it's like you're saying that Buffalo is going to spread it out, because if Diggs scores twice or if Allen goes off, all those lineups are dead, whether it's Godwin, Evans, Baker, whoever, like you're in trouble anyway. So if you feel like a balanced build with Otten gets you there, but know that you need Otten to have his game, you're going to attach Baker, and then you're going to need all the other stuff to get balanced on the other side, but it allows you to at least fit that and hope for it. So it is possible, but you do need a lot of things to go in your favor. Hop in, Hoop.
Yeah. Well, the one thing about forcing in 2 pass catchers with quarterback captain teams where, it could make sense in some situations, let's say that, it's a game where they get down inside the 1 and they do the quarterback sneak, and you forced in 2 pass catchers with Baker and the captain. You've just eliminated your chances, most likely, of winning that slate. So I never like setting that sort of rule, honestly, ever, to force in 2 pass catchers, because one play, your teams could essentially be dead. Like if you need Baker in the captain and he happens to rush one in, and he throws 150 to Mike Evans and 2 touchdowns the other way, like, and you have another pass catcher in there with him, you're done. Like you're not going to win. So I don't like making that rule. I like seeing some of my teams have that sort of thing. I definitely want some of my Baker teams to have 2 pass catchers, but not all. So that's a rule that I typically don't like to avoid. If you're hand building, it's much easier. If you're only playing 5 to 10 lineups, it's much easier. But if you're building 150, I don't like setting that sort of hard and fast rule, because one play and your night could be over essentially. If you need Baker and the captain, you have him with 2 pass catchers on every single team. So that's one thing that I wanted to point out.
And I've said this on the show previous too. That was part of my success last year in Showdown, especially, was just not overcomplicating these rules. I know people are always looking for them, and can you give me all the rules that you're going to do on this slate and all this stuff? Like, it's not very many. And on top of it, it's because of the reasons like Hoop just said. There's a spot where you could get a 2-4 with Baker up top. You could get Baker to Mike Evans gets 10 for 150 and a touchdown, and Baker throws for all the yards. Nobody else gets in that way. He ends up running one in, plus he throws for the one to him, and then he has all the yardage that goes with it. And it could just shake out that with that savings and Buffalo balancing out on the other side, that ends up being the build. So there's a lot of different ways you could see it get there. Or let's say Mike Evans doesn't have the touchdown. It's someone random. Well, Cade Otton might only have a 1-yard touchdown. It ends up being from Baker. And then you get 4 guys from the other side that just caught a bunch of passes, or the kickers or something like that. So I don't think you need to set that rule either. I know a lot of people would say you might need to, but I don't think so either. Title, any other thoughts on that? And then what about this? White at captain. Bill's run D sucks. Could you get there?
Their run D sucks, but they probably suck just about as bad as the Buccaneers rushing attack sucks as well. So, and Chase Edmonds is activated off IR. We'll talk about that a little bit. They got Keyshawn Vaughn there. They got the rookie that absolutely stinks, like the Sean Tucker, I believe it is. There's so many mouths back there. Yeah, I think he's fine, captain. It's not going to be me though. It's spread out. I'm fine spreading it out on some slates, keeping it concentrated on others, but I just want to play captains that I really feel good about. And I like James Cook more on the other side, and I like Mike Evans and Godwin. So it's really just 5 pass catchers. The last thing I will touch on, someone mentioned, is Otten the cheapest playable? And we're going to get into that mainly for the flex. I definitely don't think. I think there's multiple guys below him available. So Otten's 3K. Who do I think you can play? Devin Tompkins, wide receiver 4, I guess. Trey Palmer is getting a little more of the work, but 1.6K, you only need a couple passes. Just talked about Keyshawn Vaughn. He should be out there for some snaps, 4 or 5. He's in play. Deontay Hardy, Trent Sherfield, the wide receiver 3. I expect the Bills to play more 11 personnel today without Morris, without Dawson Knox, with Kincaid is really the only tight end. So I think those wide receiver threes mixed in there. So I do think more people are playable below Otten. But I guess to cap off the captain spot, I said right away, like, I don't have interest in all these guys down below. And you mentioned Tambo. You can play Diggs, you can play Josh, and still play pretty much whoever you want. Salary is not that restrictive today, so I think it's a mistake punting a cheap captain. What are your thoughts on that before we go to the flex?
Yeah, I will say, well, that was the other thing too, twofold. To everything you just said, yes, like that makes sense for that reason. We'll see where I end up because I want to look at some of these builds. But the other thing is, it's also one thing about Bill slates is for sure this. Why we're teasing Hoop, he wins all the money with it. But it's like, if you're going to put some of the slates, you are just playing Allen or just playing Allen and Diggs. But one thing about Buffalo slates is it usually is a tighter captain pool, because when you're going up with the likes of Josh Allen and Diggs, you got to keep up or be able to beat them, and just not enough people can. And like you said, when then you take the slate dynamics of the fact that we don't necessarily need to drop down to these cheap guys because it doesn't really change much for us at all. It's really twofold. One, it states that you probably don't need a cheap captain. Two, it states that in your Allen and Diggs lineups, even though you don't need to drop down in the flex, is where you'd want to do it, because now you can just leave that money and get different, where most people are saying, I don't even need that guy, I can just play this guy instead. But it's those that are playing the ones below him, that those guys that you can pick up and take these one-off shots to get different with those captains when it's pretty much clear these are the best captains.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. Go ahead.
Agreed. Just want to touch on this one. Evans captain with 5 bills. Evans captain, I think that would be a rule that I maybe do set, is where I have Baker in the flex. I just don't see many pass where Evans is the captain and Baker's not in there. He's such a touchdown dependent guy. I just think if he gets there, Baker's going to have to be there with him. So I would consider, I'm not fully set on that, but I'd consider setting that rule for Evans captain teams.
And to be honest, I know he's not your favorite, but great point you just brought up is I would have Godwin in that situation before I would have Evans. It would be like Godwin, who chops up 11 catches for 150 and no touchdown, and Diggs and Allen balance out. And so that's just what's up there, but that doesn't mean Baker did shit. So if I was even going to plan that route, I would do it that way.
Yeah, if you're playing both Bucks pass catchers, I'd be more prone to play Godwin captain without Evans, opposed to Evans captain without
Baker. You're saying,
without Baker is what I'm saying. Yes.
All right, let's move on. Let's go to these running backs, because talked a little bit about James Cook, talked a little bit about White, but Hoop, I'll go to you on running backs. The chat's trying to make Tucker a thing. Sean Tucker, homecoming, Q-Sky.
I drafted that man in best ball like 7 months ago, and man, every time I see him play, the dude drops passes, he stinks. So I'm out.
If you're playing that narrative, you got a chance to solo ship.
Yeah, it's not.
You got the solo shipper. You put him up.
You
there.
Also got a chance to come DFL, but that's why we play the game. So either way, go ahead, Hoop. Talk through these running backs.
Running back's going to be mostly flex plays for me. James Cook's fine. I mean, it's a big boy price tag though, 8.6K. Like he's got to do something, and I might end up playing him in the captain, but mostly flex play, probably around the field is kind of how I'll play James Cook. Same with Rashad White, 8K. He just isn't very good. And maybe it's like the team and whatnot, but he just doesn't really ever get there in a big way. So I'd be fine playing him in the flex. He is a pass catching back, so there is some upside there, especially on DraftKings with the way, the scoring is with the full PPR. Just wanted to pull this up here. 6 targets, 4, 3. So, he's probably a good flex type play. Latavius Murray, I definitely like he's getting high leverage carries. He's the guy inside the 5. They're fine giving the ball to. 4.8K if he finds the end zone, good. And then Keyshawn Vaughn at 600. I don't know how much Chase Edmonds is going to be mixed in. Hopefully we get a little more information on that throughout the day, because I haven't seen many quotes. But I'm definitely fine playing Vaughn at 600. But again, these running back plays are all flex plays for me. And probably around the field, no one here is a priority play for me, to be honest. I'd be fine being under the field on Cook. I'd be fine being under the field on White. Murray, is probably, honestly, when you factor in price, probably my favorite play, which is kind of gross and nasty to say, but not overly thrilled with any of these running backs today.
So our girl DGA, she does her highlighters up, and she gets all her sheets in order. I met her the last couple of years. She's a beast, actually. She made it to the final round of King of the Beach the last 2 seasons. She made it to the live final part. It was last year we counted. It was only 4 of us. 2 of them were her and I. So trying to get in again this year. It's coming up. But she says even the worst games this season for Buffalo, Allen and a pass catcher have been in the lineup. So just note that. The worst games that the Buffalo's played is going to feature Allen somewhere in your lineup. No rocket science there. It's like just to note, though, these are the facts so far this season. 7 or 8 weeks in here we're getting to now. Not once has the opposing team against Buffalo had more players in the lineup than Buffalo. So I'm going to be in trouble tonight building these 4-2 Tampa Bay lineups, but I'm going to do it anyway because that's what I do on these showdown plays to try and ship and get that big money up top. Title, did you have thoughts on that? We can do that and then move on to running back as well. Very true.
Yeah, I mean, my first thought is just the last showdown. Josh Allen was on the optimal. That's correct, but he had 14.12. How many times is like something in my head's telling me it was 0.12, but it was something in that 14 range. Very low with the snowflake. I don't know why 0.12. Probably because Waller's drop. I was sweating it really, really hard there. But man, like 14.12 at that ownership, I'm fading that 100% there. It's just people on the Giants side didn't get the job done. If you're giving me 14, even 16, like there's paths where that's not on the optimal. So you just diving in a little more in slate context and stuff.
Yeah, but just to add on to that point a little bit more, because I think it is interesting that ended up being on the optimal, a Josh Allen 14. So like in my head, the other side of that is that was an ugly game, obviously, and the other team did not have big fantasy. So it's like that was a product of the game that was played. It was just an ugly type game. And then it turns into a floor situation. And any floor situation, you're going to want the quarterbacks because they have the ball in their hand and they're able to rack up even these bullshit small fantasy point totals. So it is certainly interesting. And yeah,
go ahead.
If you say Josh Allen gets 14 tonight, we're fading his ass, right? Like you're not even going to play. Like you can't even click that. If someone tells you that, you're going to say no. Like I got to pass on that. But it is interesting. That's the fun dynamic of showdown where a guy can fully bust. Like 14 for Josh Allen is a bust, but he's still on the optimal. It's interesting.
But the thing is that last play, obviously, I remember is the 1 yard line, 1 second left. Like if they get that touchdown, whether to sneak some, he might not be on the optimal. I was doing math and here and there. Like if Tyrod rushes it, the QB sneak, he outscores Josh there. So he would probably, I don't know pricing, all that. We had Morris, we had Hardy, we had some cheap pieces that maybe it gets there. But we also have to remember, like there was enough cheap pieces that also made that lineup work. So yeah, very good. Interesting talking points there. If you give me 14, I'm fading all day. Definitely not expecting 14 though. My thoughts quick on the running back room.
Yeah,
you got that, Tam, or you want to say something?
Well, I was just going to say quick too, because my mind's thinking a little bit the same, but also the opposite, because it's like, that's the thing. It just depends on what you think the game plays out like. Because that game was, again, some injuries and 14-9, all this stuff. But just to say it, if you have a lower score, if you think everybody struggles tonight, then Josh Allen 14 still sounds bad. But if you think it's that, like, that means like maybe Diggs didn't have quite as good of a game. Who are like Gabe Davis probably didn't do much there. And now it's like, where do you get these Bills points from? And so then it can still end up in the lineup. But I get what you're saying from the front part of like, if it's 14 up front, you're just saying no. But I think it depends on how you think the game plays out.
It's just, if you give me a 80-something% Josh Allen combined, he's getting 14. There's no pushing all the chips in. Not saying for sure that's not optimal. It's all slate dependent. 14-9 game, we'll get there. If that game was 57-50 and Josh Allen had 14 points, which would have to be an injury or something, he ain't there. But yeah, good stuff by DJ. I mean, that sheet that she does, the color coding, all that. Good information there. As far as the running back room for me, I mean, it's easy on the mainly flex plays. I mentioned James Cook. I do have interest in him at captain. Big favorites, good touchdown prop. Plus 125, the second best. He's explosive too, so I'm good with him. But Latavius, outside of that, not really much captain interest in the flex, though. It's easily just Latavius and Cook. They're getting all the work since Damian Harris went down on the Buffalo side. I mean, Latavius Murray, the price tag feels a little expensive. I get that, but plus 195 touchdown prop for him is very interesting. Buffalo, pretty high team total. Latavius Murray has got more goal line work, so I'm good with him. I'm not going to be setting a rule max 1. If you're hand building, I don't know how much I'd get to that, only in a couple lineups, but hey, Cook drives him down the field, catches 6-7 passes. Latavius falls in the box once or twice. We've seen crazier things happen, but I like both guys there. And yeah, I mean, what a mess is this Buccaneers backfield. It is Rachaad White for sure. They've been disappointed in him this year. Now Chase Edmonds gets activated off of IR. Keyshawn Vaughn was working as the second running back. I'm still expecting that, but like who mentioned, we're really guessing at this point. How much work is Chase Edmonds going to get? Is Rachaad White's role going to go back a little bit because he just hasn't been very good? This Buffalo team is attackable for sure. I don't know. And then you got Sean Tucker. What I do know is Sean Tucker, at least as of now, is not going to be there. I'm hoping one of these guys might very well be inactive. And if I had to pick, I think it probably would be Sean Tucker. So monitor the little stuff like that. I like Keyshawn Vaughn the best for the price in the flex on the Buccaneers side because he gets you 4 or 5. There is a chance that's on the optimal. So I think I'm leaning him. But yeah, like Rachaad White, just because of his price, I'm going to be playing him in the flex. But I like Cook more. And I like, who was he sandwiched in between? It was James Cook for a little more expensive. And then it was Chris Godwin for a little less. So 8.6 Cook, 8K White, 7.8 Godwin. Like by far, White is the last of those three for me, which is why I don't love him as much in that range. But there's only so many places you can go.
Yeah, I definitely don't need to say much more on it because you guys broke it down pretty good. But just the Latavius Murray thing, like I'm going to look at those builds for sure. I think back to my original point on the 5-1s and stuff. I think he's going to come in and do something and tilt people, and it should not tilt you. Like I would not be surprised if this guy jams at least one in, if not two. And you said the prop, it's all there too. Like to me, that should not be tilting anybody if that happens. I definitely could see that happening on this slate. It's not some magical thing or crazy thing to think that's going to happen. So let's move on. We talked a lot about these wide receivers already, so maybe more about the outsiders. I mean, you talked about rules with certain ones. You broke all kinds of stuff down on both sides. I guess Gabe Davis, haven't heard a lot about him yet. And then, the other side of it, and Knox is out at tight end, so that could lead to that there. And then some of these back end options for both Tampa Bay and Buffalo. We've talked a lot about the others.
Yeah, I mean, I like a lot of these guys. I mean, wide receivers just have a built-in advantage on DraftKings, even the cheap ones where they just, a couple catches at a cheap price tag can potentially be enough. We've talked about Diggs. We've talked about Evans. We've talked about Godwin. Oh, I just realized Godwin's only 7.8K. That's a pretty damn cheap price tag for a guy that consistently gets 10 targets. 7.8. Yeah, that's really cheap for Godwin. In on all those guys, Diggs, Evans, Godwin. We talked about Gabe Davis when we were talking about captain plays. Don't necessarily love him in the captain, but I think he's a great flex play. If you're playing Josh Allen captain teams, Gabe Davis is an ideal pairing for Josh Allen captain teams. He has a price that if he finds the end zone once, you probably need it. If you can get 12, 13 fantasy points by finding the end zone, you probably need it in those Allen captain teams. So definitely in the flex on Allen captain, love him. Shakir, you can play at 3-2. Hardy, I continue to love. I mean, they run plays designed to get this guy the ball, and he's only $1,000. It takes one play at $1,000 to be inoptimal, and I'm going to continue to be heavy on him at $1,000 on DraftKings. I think he's a great play. So all these Bills guys, and then on the Tampa Bay side, Evans, Godwin, like we talked about, and then you can play these other guys too, Trey Palmer, and maybe I don't love the 4-2. He's priced right around those kickers, but he's fine. And then Devin Tompkins at 1.6K, definitely prefer him over Palmer because of that price tag. And then the other guy for Buffalo they can obviously add in is Trent Sherfield at $400 flat. Again, another guy that's very valuable in Allen captain team. So I really like the wide receivers. I'm going to be playing these guys at a much higher clip than the running backs tonight. And all the guys I mentioned, I think are firmly in play. And, if you are playing like Baker Mayfield captain teams, like we talked about earlier, then you give a bump to guys like Palmer and Tompkins down there. So this is a loaded position. And like I said, these wide receivers and pass catchers just have a built-in advantage on DraftKings, especially the cheap ones. Yeah,
just a note on that, and I'll come to you, Title, on wide receiver thoughts. But can you fade? You can definitely fade him. I mean, he's not even going to be that high owned. I think he's going to be maybe 6 to 10% of the captain, if that, and then he's going to be like 35% of the flex. People do not want to play Baker. You don't have to because you can just get Godwin on the other side. You can just get Rachaad White. You can get something like that. So Otten, all those guys make it work. Shout out to TCB here. Appreciate you joining the nation. You guys want to join, you can get over there now. Lots of people using code Mayo. So we love to see that already during the show. If you're not in yet, now's the time to join. Promo code Mayo gets you 10% off. And answer to this is no. People aren't afraid of this anymore. I think he's going to literally be like 10% of the captain. Even he practiced full on Wednesday, went through the walkthrough on Tuesday. It's just a Q tag on DraftKings. It doesn't really mess around too much.
Yeah, and that's just a product of like bullshit injury reporting. Like they knew he was going to play all week, and they just like label him as questionable. We've seen it so many times, and everyone has seen it so many times, so they're just over it. And then we see it like when these guys play, they just play. I mean, that's just all there's to it. Everyone's seen it now, so I agree with that.
Yeah, I think Evans will come in lower owned at the captain than Godwin
because of the price. I think so too.
Just to note, I don't know if that's a hot take. I just think Godwin just gets pumped and pumped. Like this one, I can see more clear than some of the other spots that I've been in. Final wide receiver thoughts, because they're talking about Trey Palmer, Devin Tompkins. I know you brought Devin Tompkins up a little more earlier. There is a price difference, but I will say one thing before I flip it to you on that is that's a prime example. What's the Sherfield Hardy one? Someone said Sherfield's 400.
401.
Hardy's 1,000.
So that one's not as good. To me, and I'm not saying the move is not as good. I'm talking about this thought process I'm about to have here quickly, is that to our point earlier, there's lineups where you can land on Trey Palmer and look at his box score and say that looks good and just leave that money all on the table and drop down to Tompkins, because other people will say, well, I'm going to stick with Palmer. They've already used him. He's got in the box. I feel like that's fine. But I'm saying you can literally import the same lineup and swap him to Tompkins and take that risk, and it'll be way less duped just by doing that. And really, you're telling me there's a major difference? There's just not. It's one game, and what happened before really has nothing to do with tonight. We're trying to bring all the thoughts and put them all together. Go ahead, Title, round us out on these lower values especially.
Yeah, my same thoughts. Yeah, so two receivers on both sides of the ball, the Diggs and Gabe Davis, and Mike Evans and Godwin. We don't even need to talk about it. Don't need to talk about Kincaid. He's the only tight end there. Like all five of those very strong. You can play him at captain if you want to. The cheaper pieces are interesting. So yeah, we'll go Tampa Bay side first. The Trey Palmer and the Tompkins, like you're saying. So Trey Palmer is their wide receiver 3. He's on the field the most out of them all, but it's by no means that it's 70% plus. Like Tompkins mixes in. We saw this Raheem Jarrett mix in as well. They're going to be mixing and matching. Sometimes they'll run 4 receiver sets, especially if they trail the more, then they'll have to drop back more and stuff like that. So with that price is just pushing me to Tompkins and pushing me away from Trey Palmer. I do not think it should be almost a $3,000 difference. And like you said, you can go Palmer in your lineup, have your 6 guys go right down to Tompkins and play it that way, and you eliminate so many dupes. That's the stuff I'll be looking to do. Tompkins, 3 targets last game, 4 the game before, 4 the game before, 4, none that game, and then 3. He's got at least 1 point in every single game. Like a guy that's going to be on the field that has got targets in every game. Hey, it only takes 1 in Showdown, as we know, to fall in the box. So at $1,600, I much prefer that price tag than I do the Trey Palmer. I won't really be having much Trey Palmer. I get it, though. He's going to be very low owned. You're overspending for low ownership, and if he falls in the box, no thanks for me, though. Raheem Jarrett, he's all the way down at 200 on a slate that there really isn't great 200 options, so I don't think it's the craziest thing. Again, like you're just hoping a catch, 2 catches, maybe falls in the box there. He got 2 opportunities last week. Yeah, I think he's fine. I don't think you really need to go there. He had 2 targets last week. He didn't convert, but Tompkins my favorite on the Tampa side. No thanks really to Palmer. The Bill side is so tough. Like someone's saying, like, should we go Sherfield over Hardy for leverage? I don't think Hardy is going to be high enough owned to say that's leverage. Right. I do expect him to be higher owned, but if you like Hardy more, like don't just pivot just because of that. You'll be kicking yourself later when Hardy falls in the box and you went Sherfield just to get a little cute. But yeah, so it's Shakir, it's Hardy, and it's Shakir, Hardy, Sherfield mixing in all his wide receiver 3. And because no Dawson Knox, no Quentin Morris, maybe they even go some 4 receiver sets today. Who knows? But plenty of 11 personnel I'm expecting. Shakir's my favorite at 3.2K. He has the biggest role. I think he's the best of all 3. Then I rank it Hardy, and then I rank it Sherfield. That is also how playing time has been. Hardy's been pretty active though. When he's in, they scheme him the ball.
Yeah.
So it's not a strong lean between Hardy and Shakir for me, but it is definitely Sherfield last. However, he's $400. 1 catch could be enough if it gets Allen, Diggs, Mike Evans, and that's just how you need it for salary. But yeah, the Hardy and Shakir, Tompkins, by far my favorite. If I had to rank those, I don't know, man. Tompkins, Shakir, Hardy. I don't know. I don't have a strong lean on those 3. I want your takes on that.
I'm just mixing them around. Like I don't, like you said, especially when a guy's 1,400 and we're talking about 9 versus 5. on ownership, I just don't care. Like, you're just mixing those guys in. It's the same situation. I thought the other side was way more interesting when you're talking about this. Everyone's going to think because Palmer with the touchdowns, but that's like $4,000 something, and you're on the other side of it for much cheaper. I like the Tompkins call much more just in that as a whole, mainly just on the game theory perspective and being able to leverage up some that way. Steven Neighbors, our guy in here, appreciate you as always for watching, says, why the expected kicker ownership is so low. It's like, it's pretty much the same. I think we're on pace. Our site has it at 15 and 19 right now. And I think other sites have it very similar. So I think that's about right. And it's because, like I said, people have playable options on Tampa Bay tonight. They have playable options always on Buffalo. It's like you can play a bunch of these guys. And also another point of it would be when you go Diggs, Allen or Allen Diggs, flip them in the captain slot, however you want to do it. You're not often getting to the kickers there when you're using that money. Now you're getting a Godwin or a Baker and a receiver. Kincaid is super owned tonight, and we'll go there. It's a good segue now, Hoop. But that's why, just so you know, but Hoop, I'll go to you. Give us your thoughts on this Knox being out, Kincaid situation, been waiting for him to show up, Otton on the other side, and then any other tight ends that you want to talk about.
Yeah, Kincaid's obviously a big talking point for this slate with Knox being out. They had the hype coming into the season. They wanted to get this guy involved. Now Knox is out. He's coming off an 8 for 75-yard game where he had 8 targets, converted them all into catches. Just seems like everything is pointing in his direction tonight. Again, he's going to get ownership. I mean, everyone's aware of the situation. If you want to go to the box scores and look, yeah, it's going to look good. If you want to go with the team talk, it's going to look good. Like, everything lines up for Kincaid tonight. He's 5K. I think he's a really good play. Otton, 3K flat, very strong option as well. Again, if you're playing Baker captain teams, perfect guy to put in the flex there with those Baker captain teams. And he's obviously in play, not on Baker captain teams because he's only 3,000. Finds the end zone, you're good to go. He's a big target there. They're going to use him. And it looks like, the Bills are down to like nobody at backup tight end. The only other guy that's projecting is like Joel Wilson, $200. Yeah, I'm going to mix him in. Not a priority play by any means, but, if something happens to Kincaid, someone's going to be out there playing tight end. So I'm fine mixing him in. But, this position and honestly this slate, I mean, Kincaid is very, very appealing tonight.
Yeah, this is something we didn't spend enough time on earlier either to bring up, but like Vita Vea, as of an hour before our show, it was still a true game time decision. So you can keep an eye on that. I think, honestly, I think the Buffalo run game is going to be involved either way, but if that sort of made you move it up the board further for like a captain, I know it's going to move it up because a guy like him being out can help their case. But I just think if you think that's going to be the case either way, you can roll it out there and just have him as a captain or something to try and level up that way. Kickers, I guess, sorry, go ahead, Title. Your thoughts first on I meant to bring that to you, the Kincaid situation, and then we'll go to kickers and defense. After that, we'll get to the sim segment.
Well, yeah, I just think a lot of the big reason too on kickers ownership being a little lower. The DraftKings pricing, as you've noticed throughout this year for Showdown, has kept increasing kickers. I remember it was 3,800, 4,200. Now you're saying like 5,460, 5,400, and Kincaid's right in the middle at 5K today. Without all of this, he just projects a lot better. So just the range and the pricing, all of that will keep him lower owned. Latavius Murray, keep kickers a little lower owned. As far as tight ends, no, though. I like Kincaid. Cade Otton, he's going to be out there all the time, which makes you feel good in Showdown, but he's a cardio guy, so you hope he catches 1 or 2, all that. I'll be playing them mainly in the flex. I do think Kincaid's fine at captain, and Joel Wilson or whatever, make a creative player hoops that I will not be having.
Yeah. Go ahead and throw your guys' scores in. We're going to get to those soon with the sim segment, but going to come back to you. Just any other added thoughts, Hoop, on the kickers and defenses in general? I know what your thoughts are with the defenses, but let's hear it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, same thing with there. I mean, whatever I get at the defense, that's fine. I mean, it's over-owned now. I mean, they've been on so many of these optimal teams where they're just over-owned every slate. If you want to chase it, go for it. I don't have interest. Like, I'll play them, don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to prioritize them. I'm not going to force them into my lineups. And kickers, I agree. Like, they've rightfully so bumped up the prices, but that has also brought down the ownership quite a bit. Like, ownership's come down. These guys are typically now in the teens, whereas last season we were seeing them in like the 30% range in terms of ownership on most slates. Now it's way, way down because of these price tags. Still want to get exposure here. Like, I really want to get exposure, especially a guy like Bass. Like, I definitely want some Bass, and I'll have some McLaughlin as well. But the increased price tag has brought down the ownership. There's no denying that.
Yeah, the thing about Bass, they're right at the pretty much the same spot as Kincaid. Like Title said, like, man, these two plays just wrapping around him. You've got Bass, $400 more, Latavius Murray, $200 less. We pretty much have seen this plenty of times to know how this is going to go. We'll see. Kincaid will get his grabs and stuff, but I think that's one thing people also confuse. I want to see how it looks as we get closer to game time. I'll have everything up on the site, shipitnation.com, promo code Mayo. If you want to check it out, the slate plan will be up. But I just think, like, everyone goes, oh, Knox is out, Kincaid's in. It doesn't mean he does shit. Like, it literally doesn't. I mean, he's probably still out there. He's still the guy, but they still want to go to Diggs. They still have Gabe Davis. They still have Vita Vea out. They just want to jam and get in and get out and use James Cook and roll it all day. Josh Allen's still going to be sneaking it and doing stuff that way. So I'm not against Kincaid. I love watching the guy. We've talked about on the show plenty of weeks where he's not even when Knox was there, he's not a standard tight end. He's going to run routes, things like that. I'm excited about him. But I'm saying there can be a situation here where Bass and or Latavius Murray just end up eating his lunch, and you're like, shit, they talked about that on the show. Should have thought about that. You always got to think about these things when you're building your lineup. So build it to make it make sense. But I think that you'll see a lot of people just naturally flow to Kincaid there. And I really think I'll have to wait and see. But I really think we could see him more owned in the captain than we expected as well, just because he makes everything work so easily. And I was looking at it earlier. Definitely could see that. I would be more likely to plug in like a Latavius Murray than the kicker in this situation if trying to level up that. But to Title's original point, probably not the best with the cheaper captains today. So we'll see how many. I take my guy Title's advice. I take Hoop's advice too, but we're frenemies, as people know. We just run businesses together and all that. We're not really truly friends. But with Title, he sometimes sways my mind where I'm like, damn, I didn't even think of that. And we're all trying to learn together. That's what it's all about. Get better at this game, win as much as possible. And I'll put it right in the slate plan. Title talked me into this. So I'll see how it ends up with my captain pool tonight. But Title, any final thoughts from you on this slate before we get to the sim segment and the other stuff? Anything else that we missed that you wanted to bring up?
I'll just do the kickers. The defense is quick. I'll be playing Bills D. Baker can make a lot of mistakes. Bills D at 43.5 total in Buffalo. It feels like a good Buffalo spot. So I'll be that out of all those four, I'll probably have the most Bills D. As far as the kickers, I think both are, at their ownership and at their price. I'll be probably right around the field. I think they'll appropriately own, but I'm not going to be jammed. Like the Bass, I do prefer Kincaid. I think I even prefer Latavius Murray in a vacuum. But they're fine there. Buccaneers defense by far my least favorite. But hey, Josh can take plenty of sacks. He can make mistakes. Someone said Bills have been awful. I've watched plenty of Bills this year too, and man, they just have not looked great either. So hey, if you want to take a low own shot on the Buccaneers, you play more chalk. You have to mix in low owned pieces in your lineup if you want to win any big amounts of money. So I'll be using Buccaneers really just in chalkier lineups to get different.
Yeah, and if you want to do that too, I was just thinking of it here, looking at it real quick. The other thing you could do is you could run if you go some of those Buffalo 5-1s I was talking about, you could just run the kicker on the other side. Tampa Bay just doesn't want to get blown out, kicks a couple of field goals, and maybe that's all it ends up being. But I mean, you could even do that with like a 4-2, to be honest, if you just had like Godwin and the kicker, and it's like the kicker puts up the actual points for them as a value play, and Godwin slices and dices over the middle and doesn't really do much. I definitely could see something like that happening. Hoop, any final thoughts from you on this slate? Anything we missed that you wanted to talk about before we move on to the sim segment?
No, nothing. I mean, I think we covered it pretty well. I mean, I do agree. Like, what's the price on the bill? They're $4,400, so a little bit cheaper than the kickers and Baker Mayfield. Especially if you're playing that narrative where you think that Buffalo kills them, which I think it is in the realm of possibilities that Buffalo just absolutely slaughters them. But man, look at it, and they're going to be owned, man. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they're like 30-some% owned. So I don't know. It's
the Bills
in terms of the D. Yeah.
It'll probably be about 30 is my guess, 25-30.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at there.
All right, I'm good with all that. Like I said, I'm definitely going to be mixing. I'm on the Bass team more than others, not just because one, I think the Buffalo defense side, like what Title said, I'll just finish it off. Is definitely that Baker can make mistakes, but Josh Allen's made mistakes too, plenty. Actually, we saw the Giants get a pick six off him. Seen other teams show up against a Miami situational stuff. So I think there's definitely an opportunity, but I'm not really high on that as much as he just could break down within the red zone, end zone, stuff like that, and we just see Bass come out and that just crushes Kincaid. That's just the number one thing on my mind right now, is definitely a possibility. So we talked about Hardy. We talked about Tupac Shakir. We talked about all these guys down there. So you can go back and watch that. We'll have it. Title, give us a score while you're pulling it up. Just to remind everyone, if you go to Run the Sims, you can use promo code SHIPIT, get 10% off. You go to DFS Tools, you go to NFL. They have all kinds of other stuff. The Prop Sniper has been crushing it lately. They have a Prize Picks, Underdog tool. You guys get in on the action there. Get everything with their membership when you sign it up. Add on the Prop Sniper, add on Sims Pro. But if you go RTS SimRunner, you show up here. We clicked in the slate. We're on the DraftKings Showdown Captain mode. I'm turning off pro mode for this because we're just going to run the Sims with 10,000 simulations and see what our optimal results look like. Right now, you can mess around with it. You can change the rush rate. You can change the TD ratio. You can change all kinds of stuff here. But we're just going to change the score to keep it simple for you guys and then break down where some of that leverage comes in. 27-14 Bills. A lot of people like scores similar to this, so I don't hate that. Let's run it. So we're just changing the Bills to 27. We're changing the Bucks to 14, and we're pressing Run the Sims. You'll see how quickly it brings up our optimal results. What about Tupac? Yeah, 27-14 is the score. I went off it, but yeah, Shakir is who people are talking about in the wide receiver pool for the Bills. Let's see here. So here's the results. So just so you guys see it, it breaks down, and real quick, it's pretty straightforward, but it's the player, the position, the team, the salary. Those are the easy ones. This is what Run the Sims have Josh Allen. We'll use him as the example all across. They see him as 66% owned in the flex. They see him as 21% in the captain for 87% total ownership. That's just what they see going in. The 10,000 simulations break everything else out. And so it's saying in the Sims, he only showed up 57% of the time in the flex versus 66 that they have him at. And he only showed up 19. I say only, that's why you're seeing a negative 1.5 captain leverage. The math is simple. Here to here, he did not show up 21% of the time. So what they're saying is if he was in 21%, if he's in 19.6 or more lineups in the captain on their run of simulations here with that score, they're saying that would technically be considered over-owned slightly. But to note, he's still showing up 76% of the time versus the 87%. He's still showing up a ton versus most are 50% or less. Stephon Diggs right behind him. So, Title, I'll go to you. You brought up that score. Give me your thoughts on some of the stuff you see here, some of the captain leverage. You know, Rachaad White really picks it up in this result. Anything you see that stands out to you?
Yeah, no, I was a little interested to see Baker, Rachaad White. I guess Mike Evans isn't too bad either on a 27-14 game. Isn't that what we use? 27-14?
Yeah, 27-14.
Yeah.
So the Bucks putting up 14 points gives us more Baker, more White.
Yeah, it's so concentrated with them. So I get it. Like if Godwin catches his two, Mike catches his two. A little surprised to still see Baker positive leverage, like 6.5% at the cap. Like, can he get there without rushing one in with this score? Like, I really, really feel like it's hard for him to get there. I mean, I don't expect him to go
302 touch. It would be 302 touches essentially. That's what you'd be looking for.
Yeah,
and they only have him in the captain 6.5 versus the 5. Yeah. It's not really huge, but what stood out to me is look how obviously his flex rate goes way up. He went from 32 that he's going to be owned in the flex. They're saying he showed up in the Sims almost 50% of the time, 45.2% of the time. In this score, that to me would make sense in the flex. Yeah, I just don't think you're going to get to him, even though it's slightly positive leverage in the captain. It's like you said, he's not really showing up in the captain very often because it's pretty unlikely, probably.
Yeah, I was just looking at that 6.5 number, like 6 out of 100 times in this score, which is interesting. But I trust this is why you run the simulations. They're doing every single play, all that. Like I'm trying to think through it. You're always trying to learn. Now, the last thing is it's back to the very, very early point we made with Diggs and Josh probably on 45% combined captain. That right here it's 44. So very close. Like if you like any other captain on this slate, don't worry about the ownership really. It's not like you just play Godwin and then jam in all the chalk, but not playing Allen or Diggs can definitely allow you to eat a lot more chalk in the flex or leave less salary, things like that. You don't have to get as crazy if you're not playing Allen and Diggs. And then the last point is just you see not many punts. You're not seeing any punts in this screen at all at the captain for positive leverage. So, or scroll down a little bit. I want to see if there's any positive leverage captains.
You're seeing one. I highlighted it.
I like him. I'm not considering him. He's underpriced. He should be 6.5, 7K. So I was mainly saying the Fields, those guys of the world, K-Dons. Yeah, you don't want to mess with cheap captain. Go ahead.
This is all I'm looking at is these two right here. If you see Kincaid and Latavius Murray, the ownership gap is significant at both flex and captain. When you go over here, though, it's almost in line at flex. Again, neither of them are probably good captains, is what this continues to show, 3% and 2%. But look at that flex rate for the overall leverage, and look how much it's a negative leverage play going to Kincaid here. And this is in a 27-14. And then just to go back to it, like this is DJ is back in here, who is beating Allen in a total with 27, maybe Diggs. It's exactly what it shows. It's showing 20. It actually has Diggs beating him more often. To Hoop's original point, Hoop loves Allen. Usually he said, but Diggs is the guy, and the way the pricing, the scoring favors wide receivers, and it shows that here. 26% of the time, it has Diggs showing up just under 20. For Allen, they're both showing up massive amounts, but it's just telling you this is kind of where you're at. And then to my thoughts earlier and where I think it'll be, Godwin, Evans, kind of what I see as well. And they do see Godwin over Evans. So as I mentioned that take earlier. So I don't know, Hoop, anything else you want to add? If not, let's throw another score in there, and then we'll get out of here shortly after.
Yeah, the only thing that was interesting to me on that one was that it wanted White. White and Godwin are very close in price, and it's saying, hey, in terms of the ownership, you should get more White versus Godwin.
30% or 29% difference. Yeah,
this can be changed slightly. It is a good point to bring that up, but again, it also looks at this is almost a 50% rush rate for them. So I'm assuming, and rush TD ratio, almost 27%. So if you give them 2 touchdowns on the ground, 14 points, it is likely that Rashad got one of those. And then you got a battle for whether or not Godwin gets one on the other angle. So that's why they're closer than normal.
That makes sense.
All right. Another score. What do you want to see, Hoop? I guess people threw other scores in there, but we looked at what this game probably looks like. Let me go back here because our guy Jason just said something. I want to see it. Keyshawn Vaughn. Yeah, that is interesting, actually.
Oh, yeah. He's way up there. So in a game, so what sort of game can Tampa Bay win? And in my eyes, it would have to be a gross, ugly, maybe a low-scoring game, right? So maybe do like a 21-17 in favor of Tampa Bay, somewhere in that range. Something like that.
I was thinking 21-20, so that works. Yeah, we're on the same
page. It was right here. Our man Tweezy.
There you go. Yeah, do our boy Tweezy's. Yeah, 21-17. Maybe I read that and then it stuck in my head.
I love it how he did it too. 17-21.
Yeah.
All right, let's run that.
So this is the sort of game where if Tampa Bay wins, very realistic.
Baker's got to be up there now. If it was 27-14 and he was up there, he's got to be up there now.
Yeah.
Well, that's running. I'll be a little behind on this because I want to check one more thing. But what's the ownership that we had right now in the solver? I was just going back to see it on Keyshawn Vaughn. Keyshawn Vaughn, $600, right? So we've got him coming in around 5-6%. Couple other places.
I think the biggest news that when they activate players and stuff like that is Vita Vea, but it's also what are they doing with this four-headed with Chase Edmonds back in the mix? It's really hard to
take a seat, right?
Yeah, the projection's really fragile. Yeah, the projections are fragile on these guys for sure. So monitor the active.
I thought you were calling like Keyshawn Vaughn like a four-headed something. Like you were talking about like LeBron, like hairline stuff or something, like this four-headed guy. But I got the four-headed monster is what you're talking about here with all these options. So all right, let's move on. Let's look at this this setup here. We went 21-17 Now what happens is Baker pops up, Godwin pops up, Rashad White even Evans. Like look 4 of the top 6. Diggs and Allen still up there. They drop by about 10%. A piece, give or take, but they still end up there. But obviously your captain leverage goes way down on Josh Allen. So, and it goes up on Baker because Baker's tossing those touchdowns, could run one in, all those. But Hoop, I'll go to you first on this one. Anything stand out for you with this this setup? Because you were wanting to see this.
There's that defense. Tampa Bay's defense is looking positive down there at they want 12% leverage. Vaughn is kind of showing up a little bit. The pass catchers, obviously, for the Bills down Kincaid and Gabe Davis. That makes sense. Rashad White's, another name continues to show up here in a game script now where they win a low scoring type battle. But it's that's one that's kind of surprising to me, because this is the second score where Rachaad White is showing up as a guy that you want to get access to. Obviously, the Baker thing makes sense. What about the kickers? They do anything here? Well, it's probably because of the score. We said what, 21-7, or what was it? Yeah, 21-17. So yeah,
Bass
so it
went
makes
up
sense. Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah,
that makes sense. Murray still showing here.
Yeah.
You know, he was showing last time as a solid option. So yeah, a few things that kind of stand out there.
Kincaid still gets crushed. That's another note just to add in. Title, did you see anything else with this one?
Yeah, I was expecting to see Godwin and Mike Evans pay better leverage in the captain spot at least or stuff. So that was a little surprising, but yeah, it looks all going to Rachaad White. But 23% total ownership. Yeah, he's definitely going to be a little lower owned in that range. But yeah, that was what surprised me a little bit. The Godwin, Mike Evans, not nearly as much, but Baker's getting Run the Sims definitely loves Baker and stuff like this. I'm going to consider it a little more. I still don't know. I'm going to make a rule if I do captain at least one for sure. I make very few rules. The rules, pretty much the only rules I really make is just the quarterback captain to see if they have rushing upside of that. Like I don't want to be building 150 and see a Baker without any pass catcher there and the lineup doesn't get their offer. But yeah, Baker the worst quarterback in the NFL.
Shout out to Josh. Yeah, bringing the facts, the pure facts. We can look at the Sims all day, but that is probably true.
Derek
So
Carr
not the worst in the NFL,
word.
but he's bad.
Someone said Derek Carr would like a word. Hoop can go on a whole list on his worst quarterbacks too. But
Dak Prescott's still in the league, right?
He is.
Kyler Murray's going to come back soon. Kyler's coming back soon.
But now that's
Kyler.
That's an optimal showdown quarterback you just brought up. So maybe Baker does have legs in the captain slot tonight, because Dak ended up hurting my feelings that night. And me and Title were both off that guy. We said no quarterbacks in the captain, and Dak, mind you, Allen and Lamb were both like one catch away from being the optimal captain. But either way, it's here nor there. So anything else, Title? Any other final thoughts for this slate before we get out of here, man? This show was a fun one. I think it's going to be a good slate. I'm actually excited for this.
Yeah, me too. And I'm excited that we're really not waiting on too much injury news. Like I said, it's really just, is any of the Tampa Bay backs going to be inactive, the Vita Bay and stuff. But you can build. They got NBA tonight, NHL. Talking news, NBA. Beal out, Devin Booker out as well, Tambo. So I believe you will be on the show in a couple hours. You can touch on that a little bit. But
less than an hour, actually, we're going to be on.
Oh, so. Yeah, it is. Less than an hour there. 54 minutes for Tambo hopping on. So, yeah, excited for this one, though. 500K. Showdown absolutely been on fire over here at Shipping Nation. So, looking to see some of those logos up top.
Yeah, the momentum is just huge right now. Obviously, D-Dry, our guy, won that NFL. We were having other stuff happen before that, but, like, since that run, it's been pretty much every sport that we've seen it in. MMA's going off. Hoop had a big win there. Last night in NBA, Hoop had the late night slate, but a bunch of members. That's what's most important. Is member. It's not watching Hoop win. It's watching members win. And we've seen a lot of these people come through and get the job done using the tools. And just even, I know it's an NFL show, so we'll stick to it. But going here, who cares? We'll share them. Like, it's fine. It's going to change. We do updates right up to lock. But just to see how simple it is to use, you go to the page. There's a full legend, so you know what you're getting yourself into. You'll know when the update is for it. You can clear the filters. You can download the CSV and take it to your favorite optimizer. You can copy them if you want. You can sort them by points per dollar plays. You can sort it. It comes naturally by salary. You can do all of this. And then if you just want to plug in something, I want to see Vaughn tonight. We just talked about. It'll bring them up in the captain and the flex. And you see it's the easiest tools to use out there. We keep everything simple. Less is more. We talk about this 24/7. If you guys want to get in the mix, all the other stuff will be there under Showdown, the core report, the player pool that Hoop does, my slate plan that we reference on this show plenty, but then NBA tonight, we've got your projections, GPP cash, slate plan. In a few weeks, we'll have the ceiling rankings and the correlation sheet when the data matters to bring those in. Our guy, Hebrew Cheetah, doing the core report for Showdown every night, and we have projections for those slates with 50K and whatnot up top. Go to shipitnation.com, click Join the Nation, pick your plan. Right now, the best deal, hop in. Annual's the best. But if you hop in for the 6 months to check it out, use promo code MAYO, do this, bring it down $323 for all the sports that we offer, not just one package and one sport. So, Hoop, I'll go to you, man. Final thoughts on this slate, final Ship It Nation thoughts before we get out of here.
Yeah, the commitment we always, the one thing we've always said is we're going to continue to improve and add on, and it doesn't stop here. Big things in the works to go along with what we're already offering. We got the sports down, 4 or 5 sports going right now. And then some big things right around the corner for SHIPIT Nation members. So just really looking forward to the future here. And it's just really rewarding to see, again, the success by our members. And I kind of tweeted out earlier, yeah, I've been on a little heater myself, but that's no good. That doesn't mean anything. Like, what means more for our community and our business model is our members winning. And we've seen a lot of that. No one gives a shit if I win. I've had a lot of success doing this for 10 years. They want to see members winning. We want to see members winning. And we've seen that nonstop now. The momentum is building. It's the environment too, man. I don't want to give ourselves all the credit. It's the community, the people in the Discord helping each other out. It's more than what we're doing here, to be honest with you. It's the community environment. You surround yourself with like-minded people, similar goals, similar mindsets. You're going to be successful. And that's what we're offering over here. And it's people winning life-changing money and finding a home for, doing what they love, finding a home for doing what they love. They can come in there, chat with people. Like I said, like-minded people, helping each other out. That's what it's all about, man. It's multiple levels to this, not just providing the content that's helping people win, which we have been doing, but the community and people being able to do it on their own just because they're part of our team. It's a well-rounded machine, well-oiled machine. Proud as hell to be a part of it.
Yeah, couldn't have said better myself. And I love this. This just came to the forefront now. I did not
There
think
we
of
go.
that.
Yeah,
and it's even
like
the way
that.
we're lined up right now, TMZ, top to bottom. So definitely love that. We'll get a graphic up for that one. But like Hoop said, Hoop, myself, Title, everybody else, the rest of our team, we can put up wins. It's about others winning. And that's the thing. I think it always dates back to this. I won't repeat what Hoop said, but just to say in general, it's not just when sites have, this guy wins all this money. It's not what it's about. Like, can you actually help others win money? And that's where you can go on X, formerly known as Twitter, put at ToeTagginTambo, put Hoop's name, whatever, and put thanks beside it and see all the people that say that we've helped them win money. That's really what it's truly about. Putting together that's not just what we say and do. It's putting together a brand and a product that you guys can go out to make it easy for you to use, find your way through, and actually build your own process and get better so that when you're, stop following other people and trying to get their wins with them when you're going to split it up anyway, when you can hop over with us and make it for your own process and make it repeatable. That's what it all comes down to. Lots of testimonials on the site that you guys can go and check out where people have talked about. Our guy, Rob, has been on an absolute heater. He wrote this like 3 months ago. He's won heaps since then. So I won't hammer it away. It's easy to do. Go over shipitnation.com. Try it out for a month. Type it in, promo code Mayo. It's $62. You wasted it on a lot more than that. Check it out. That's going to do it for this one, guys. For Title, for Hoop, for myself, ToeTagginTambo. Let's ship it.